We are back for the summer episodes as we're doing shorter, smaller chunks here. And so this first summer series is all about staff wellness. The first episode, if you missed it, was on the end of the year and how we should be putting things into place to make sure that we're not burning out. And today we're going to be leaning into team culture. So with this one, Mitch started last episode, but I'm going to throw this one to TJ because he started to talk about this a little bit in episode 1, but we had to really condense our conversation. So it was probably a third of what we typically do in these summer episodes. Yeah, felt a lot shorter. So TJ, go ahead and go on a rant.
Go on a rant.
You're on.
You're ranting on cue. No, I think that the team culture is a huge piece for not becoming burnout, not what we were just talking about in the previous episode, but like all hands on deck, I think is a big part of it. Like I've worked in a lot of schools where there's this small segment of people who do everything and everybody else is kind of just doing it as their regular workload and calling it. And I think the culture where everybody participates in something, and I think as leaders we have to manage that a little bit. And one way we manage that is on one end, not letting somebody take on, we call it on extra pay for extra responsibilities, not letting somebody take on 3, 4, 5, 6 EPers. That's not a team. That's one person. Winning teams win together. And so hopefully we can get to a culture in school where everybody's picking up a piece of the puzzle beyond their workday. So for example, you're an English teacher, but you do the yearbook. Yeah. You're a second grade teacher, and you have a special responsibility during the PLC, and like really doing it. I think right now school leaders could do an inventory, a staff inventory. I'm a big fan of inventories, period, in schools, but doing an inventory of like each person, what's their job at the school and what other roles do they play? And do we have this small group of people who do everything? And that culture is not sustainable for staff wellness is the topic of the show. It's just not. It sustains wellness for some people and not others. And that's not a team. That's my rant.
I was going to agree with you, TJ, because I was thinking about, we had people literally retire because they were like, I just can't do this anymore. This, to your point, is not sustainable. I'm on, 8 different committees. I'm a leader on the campus, plus I'm a teacher. I've got all these things where I'm not even at home ever. It at least doesn't feel like it. And then they also are like, I'm not getting compensated also the way I should be for all these extra things that I'm doing. So I think if you look at, and there's plenty of studies right now of people that aren't happy in their job and the reasons for that. And I think what we're talking about is one of the 2 or 3 of the top 5 that people, usually feel that burnout, and then also leaving whatever profession they're in. It's not just to educators. This is systematic, across the country. But I think this happens often. And I think for leaders, we get comfortable with this person. I know what they're capable of. They've had great production in the past. I trust them. So I'm just going to ask them in everything. They're the go-to. And typically that's 7 to 10 people on your campus that you are just taxing every time there's an initiative, every time there's a new organization, and anytime anything, you're always going back to the same well and saying, hey, and eventually that well dries.
I was thinking about capacity a lot, and I've been having a lot of conversations with my teachers about the capacity that they have. And the reality is we all have different capacity, right? Like I can do a gazillion things. My capacity is quite large. I can take on a lot of things. However, can I all the time and keep going? Right. And so I think, yes, I am. 100%. But that's I think something that, I don't know. I want you as a listener, if you're a leader, if you're a teacher, if you're a parent who's listening, put this into perspective. Like, everybody around you in your orbit has a certain capacity, and not every capacity is the same. And that's just the reality of it. And there are people who take on a lot of things because they have a large capacity. But as a leader, I would challenge you to go to those people and really truly ask them, like, are you okay? How are you feeling? Like, I know that you have a large capacity. I know that I've asked you to do these things, but and I know that if I asked you to do one more thing, you would say yes, because your capacity is so large and your heart is gold, right? So that's why I'm actually going to go to somebody else, because blah blah blah, finish the sentence. But I think the mindset of your capacity, other people's capacity, the reason why they behave a certain way is because of their capacity. I think that is something that I've been working through for, especially for the last year. And I think that's something that our teachers are struggling with, is not really understanding their own and also the capacity of others.
I mean, it's the 80-20 rule, right? I mean,
Mm.
it's my wife, with my sixth graders classroom, there's like 4 families that volunteer for everything to help the teacher, but
Right.
it's hysterical. Like my 3-day camping trip, 2 nights, 30 some odd people, family, parents and kids, and my wife did all the food prep, all the cooking, all of it, and then just asked for ice.
Yeah.
Like, we need some more ice. Can you just bring ice to the school when we leave tomorrow morning?
Mhm.
And one family, our good friends, like, oh yeah, Joel will bring ice. And it's like, Joel is doing this and he's one of the chaperones. Okay, he'll bring the ice. Like, it's the 80-20 rule. So I think, yeah, to be mindful of that in terms of building community as a leader,
Mhm.
to spread that out, because I'm going to piggyback on what we talked about in the last episode about how important reflection is. But as we reflect as a staff, if we really want to be a community, reflecting at the end of the year and throughout the year, or even just sharing out on that part I'm carrying. I'm doing yearbook. Like, let's get a yearbook update. And if everybody has something,
Mhm.
then it feels like we're kind of all in this together. And
Right.
you're totally right, Kim. Some people just have a capacity and are not burnout by doing a little bit more. That's not a badge of honor. That's just the
Mhm.
facts. But it
Mhm.
doesn't mean that some people um, shouldn't have that piece, because then you may not feel as like an active part of the community in figuring out what piece that is. And maybe it's teams of things. I loved that. And where I spent most of my career, it was routine where a teacher or a group of teachers would be sharing out on something. The math department crunching data and this new strategy and sharing it out, like just something that the people were bought in. So it felt like we were all kind of in this thing together,
Mhm.
as opposed to the 80-20 rule. And I would always sit kind of behind closed doors with the leadership team, because I, as department chair, was kind of in on some of those conversations. And I would tell them constantly, this is not charity. You cannot keep asking people to do stuff that's adding. If you have to figure out a way to compensate them. Now, it doesn't mean we all don't do a little bit beyond, like TJ, what you're saying, but to keep adding and just assuming it can get done. Sometimes I think it's like, hey, we need to figure out how to timesheet you, or to take something else off your plate, maybe, for sustainability's sake.
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely think people should be compensated for this extra work that I'm talking about, especially if it's beyond the school day. That's a whole show in and of itself. Some
Mhm.
of us have been able to crack that code, but I really would go back to that inventory of like the third grade teacher and what other things can they do to support the team culture. And everybody has a little slice of the pie, and nobody has 6 things next to their name past third grade teacher, but everybody has a couple of things. Some people are in a phase of their life that they can't do something after school, like committee work or whatever the case may be, but running that PLC during the day is also beyond the job of the third grade teacher necessarily. And I really believe this. This is philosophical, and some people won't like this answer. But I'm telling you about school improvement and creating a winning team, what we're talking about, you can't just go to a job as a third grade teacher or English teacher at a high school and that's it. It doesn't work for the community of the school as a community. So if you're listening to this, and really there's two types of people. If you're listening to this and you have capacity like him to do something next school year, pick something else up, something that's either during the day that might not be compensated or something after school that does get compensated on timesheets or e-per-pay or whatever the case may be. Add value beyond your day job. In schools, in maybe other jobs, you can do that and be highly successful, but in schools, and I'm trying to think of other jobs where, and I'm not coming up with very many where you can just cash it in and just do just the job, really. But in schools, for sure, everybody has to pick a little bit more up beyond their day. So if you have the capacity and you're listening to this, if you don't have the capacity, you're like, look, I'm burnt out and I'm just doing the third grade teacher thing, that's a problem too. We need to figure out how we can get you back to center so that you can add that extra piece of value to the team. So there's a lot of nuance and dynamic there, but I really believe deeply that if everybody's not picking up some extra stuff that's beyond their day title, and by the way, we're going to do a whole episode on hiring. I think this needs to come up in hiring, that we expect this from people, and that's the culture that we're building here. That's my rant.
I want to go back to Kim's real quick, her point, because I think for leaders, if you're listening, you definitely need to have an opportunity for people to share if they're feeling overwhelmed. You need to have that platform for them and that trust established for them to share that out. However, if that doesn't exist on your campus, I would say that you need to advocate for yourself, because if you're truly feeling this way and you feel like your plate is too full, then you need to speak up. You know, for myself, I took on coaching my third year of teaching. It was a lot. And then on top of that, my assistant principal, we built the schedule, was like, you have a lot of students that want your class, and so I'm not going to turn them away. I'm going to give you a class of 65. After that year was done, I was like, no, I'm not doing that again. I'm not doing it. Like, if you set my schedule up the same way as last year, I won't be here next year. Like, I put my foot down and advocate for myself, because I knew that that was the most miserable year. There were a lot of fun things about the year, but at the end of the year, I was done. I had nothing left, and I didn't want to feel that again. So I had a crucial conversation with my admin. It wasn't just the AP, it was with the principal too, of, this is not appropriate. This is, one, against the law in the state of Texas. Two, I can't sustain this moving forward. So something needs to come off my plate. It's either the students that are on my roll, or I need to step away from coaching. And so if you're feeling like you're on 10 different things and this is not something that you can do for the following year, I think you do need to step up and advocate for yourself.
I've got to tell you the secret to building capacity. Like, as you guys were all talking, I was like, okay, Kim, you brought up the capacity thing. Now, really, let's talk about it and the psychology behind it. The psychology behind it is that there's got to be some energy sort of transfer, right? I have a large capacity because there's a lot of energy that I get back from doing things like hopping on an extra Zoom with you guys. It's one more thing added to my plate, but guess what? Being with you gives me so much energy. Like, I am fueled by that. As a teacher, maybe you are doing the school musical or the play or whatever, right? And you're doing it because you love it. You love choreographing. You love being around the kids. It gives you energy. But you know what also gives you energy? It could also be money. Money, that transfer also, like that hit that you guys get when you're like, oh, I got this extra, whatever it is, right? This extra check. I got this extra, like, it's also that energy transfer. And so to build that capacity, there has to be this sense of energy transfer happening. And so I think that's also why a lot of teachers feel burnt out. It's because they're adding more things to their plate and it's not giving that energy back into them. It's not doing it. It's actually draining it. And they're feeling the load on their shoulders. And so where do you get that energy from, right? Is it from kids? Is it from your people? Is it money? That is a big, big thing when you're talking about capacity and building your own. So for everybody listening, think about that. Really, really think about that. You're not stuck. It's not like, well, I got a small capacity. Kim, yay, you got this large capacity. No. I've built that up, and you all get to build those skills too by doing that. Just a little bit.
Awesome. Well, you actually practiced this past week, Kim. You use Voxer, use Zoom to fill your cup for the upcoming week. So you actually do the things that you're preaching. So, all right, I want everyone to let us know what you think of these short tidbit 15-minute summer series. If you have any strategies from either episode 1 or 2 of this staff wellness piece, definitely throw that in the comments in YouTube or in Spotify. And yeah, we're excited about the upcoming episodes here. The next one's going to be on hiring practices, and then the 4th one will be on teacher retention. After this series, of course, we'll do the mailbag. So if you have any questions on the 4 parts here that you want to throw out to us, let us know, and we will be happy to answer that for our mailbag episode. So with that, we're going to close this down, and we look forward to seeing you very, very soon.